Hello there, my name is Brian Special, host of the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show and co-founder of Bright Angel Outfitters. And I am honored to welcome you to one of the most spectacular hikes in one of the most spectacular places on the planet, the iconic Rim2Rim. All the research, all the training you've done are culminating in this one moment, and it's okay to be a little bit emotional about it. I am so excited for you to get ready to drop into the canyon here and an experience you will never forget. What I'm here for is to be your occasional guide along the way, to point out landmarks and features and keep you updated on the progress you're making in your quest to reach the North Rim. Now, first off, you can look all the way straight across the canyon from here and see where you're going. If it's still dark out, you should be able to see the lights of the historic Grand Canyon Lodge flickering on the edge of the North Rim. That's about 10 miles away as the crow flies, but you'll be covering about 21 miles on foot, losing 4,780 vertical feet as you descend from this point all the way down to the Colorado River over about 6.5 miles, and then gaining more than a mile, 5,780 vertical feet, over 14 more miles of hiking from there. Okay, as you stand here at the South Kaibab Trailhead, you can look down and see you will immediately be heading down a steep set of switchbacks called the Chimney, which lasts for about a quarter mile and 230 vertical feet. This part of the trail is heavily trafficked and can be slick and full of ruts, not to mention what the daily mule trains leave behind. So watch your step. It is very easy to sprain an ankle or twist a knee while descending South Kaibab. You also want to be careful about going too fast. The downhill will seem easy, but don't discount the pounding your legs are taking. Remember, you're going to need them for long after you reach the river. So don't fall for what canyon vets call the grand deception. You'll know you've made it down the chimney when you look off to your left and see one of the Park Service's famous signs warning hikers about the dangers of going too far. The man on all fours vomiting violently? Well, that's our buddy who's affectionately known as Victor Vomit. So, don't be a Vic, right? Just under a mile down the trail, you'll run into the unmistakable majesty of Aah Point. As long as you have daylight, of course. You'll see the sign just off to the right. When you get there, fire us back up and we'll tell you about Aah and what still lies ahead. Until then, hey, go get 'em. Hike your own hike, and we'll talk again at Aah Point. Well, that wasn't so bad, was it? You've now made it 9/10 of a mile down the South Kaibab Trail and are about 790 vertical feet below the rim. This is Aah Point, and your first look at those jaw-dropping panoramic Grand Canyon views to the east, west, and north. This is a popular spot for day hikers to get a sense of what hiking the canyon is all about without having to go too far. But you're just getting started. You're now 6/10 of a mile from Cedar Ridge, where you'll find toilets and a place to take a break. But before Cedar, well, you're about to see what I personally think are the best views on any of the corridor trails. After turning south for a little bit here after Aah, you will soon turn north again and see views that you probably didn't know could exist. They are that spectacular. This is also where you'll walk down Windy Ridge, a narrow spine that you've likely seen in countless photos. Enjoy this section of South Kaibab. Maybe even take your time, because you're about to see things that really define the Grand Canyon experience. We'll talk next at Cedar Ridge. Well, what'd you think of those views, huh? Regardless, there are plenty more ahead. This is Cedar Ridge, a mile and a half and 1,140 vertical feet below the South Kaibab Trailhead. This is a popular rest stop with photo ops galore, as you can see. By the way, the South Kaibab Trail opened in 1925, then known as the Yaqui Trail. It was built by the Park Service during a dispute over rights to Bright Angel Trail, which at the time was privately owned and required a toll to use. Well, the NPS got tired of the fight and decided to build a trail of its own. And judging by these views, which far surpass those of Bright Angel, I'd say they found their silver lining to that dispute. Looking down to the left from here, you will see O'Neill Butte, which is named for Bucky O'Neill, a legendary Arizonan and a captain for Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders, who was killed in action during the Spanish-American War. As you make your way down the trail, which is straight down to the right, you'll pass O'Neill Butte on the way to Skeleton Point, 1.5 miles and 900 vertical feet from Cedar Ridge. When the trail levels out, you're on Mormon Flat, and pretty soon, you'll see a wooden sign on your right that says Skeleton Point. We'll pick it up there. In the meantime, enjoy the views and get ready for your first look at the mighty Colorado River, which comes in just 1.5 miles. Welcome to Skeleton Point. You're now 3 miles from and 2,040 vertical feet below the South Kaibab Trailhead. And you're almost halfway to the bottom, but not quite. You've probably already seen it, and maybe you've even heard it. That is the Colorado River, still about 3.5 trail miles and 2,700 vertical feet in the distance. The river runs green about half the time and brown the other, and it's nearly impossible to know which color you'll get. Like so many things in life, the river is now controlled by man, thanks to the Glen Canyon Dam at Lake Powell. The river runs 277 miles through the length of the Grand Canyon, from Lee's Ferry on the east to the Grand Wash Cliffs on the west. But the river is not your concern. What's next is what you need to be ready for. It's probably the steepest section of South Kaibab, the notorious red and white switchbacks, which start immediately below Skeleton and will lead you down about 550 vertical feet over the next 0.6 of a mile. As tough as they could be to go down, imagine going up the red and whites as you near the end of a Rim2Rim, or a Rim2Rim. I'm not ashamed to admit that this is the spot where I have uttered more 4-letter words than any place else in the canyon. The red and whites are named for the geological transition that you're making, from the canyon's Redwall formation to its layer of mauve limestone. Before you head down, there are some great views off to the left and some good spots to rest and recharge. We'll next talk at the Tipoff, 1.5 miles and just over 1,200 vertical feet in the distance. Oh, and on the third switchback down from Skeleton Point here is one of my favorite views in the whole canyon. Maybe check it out for yourself if you remember. We'll see you at the Tipoff. There will be pit toilets there and a shelter with benches, as well as an emergency phone. See you there. Well, you've made it farther than most. This is the Tipoff, the gateway to the Grand Canyon's inner gorge. You're now right at 4.5 miles from where you started, and you've descended 3,260 vertical feet. You're at the very tip of the Grand Canyon's Tonto platform and the junction of the Tonto Trail, which weaves its way in and out of side canyons and drainages for more than 70 miles. If you were going west on Tonto from here, the trail was marked by a sign that was to your left, maybe 150 yards back. And that trail would have taken you 4.5 miles until it intersected with the Bright Angel Trail just below Havasupai Gardens. But that's for another day. The Tonto platform was once home to packs of wild burros, which were left behind by early prospectors, and created enough damage to the environment that they were removed by the Park Service in an ongoing operation that, well, it evolved right along with societal norms, starting with rifle-carrying rangers in the 1920s, and ending in the 1980s with the last few helicoptered out for adoption. When you get to the North Rim, look for the bronze statue of the legendary Brighty the burro, just downstairs from Grand Canyon Lodge's main lobby. Brighty is the canyon's most famous burro, and the subject of a children's book in the 1950s and even a film in the 60s. Okay, you've got just over 2 miles and 1,500 vertical feet to go until you're crossing the Colorado. So we'll bow out from here and you can get back to work. Enjoy the scenery and the steep switchbacks all the way to the bottom. You'll soon be getting your first look at the Kaibab Suspension Bridge, more commonly known as Black Bridge, far down below. And when you see the bridge and look to your left, you'll see the greenery that is Bright Angel Campground. And just up from that is Phantom Ranch. Try to remember to hit play again when you get to the other side of the Black Bridge. We'll talk to you then. Congratulations on making it to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. You're 6.5 miles and 4,780 vertical feet from where you started. You just crossed the iconic Kaibab Suspension Bridge, the Black Bridge. Built way back in 1928, this was the first bridge in the canyon crossing the Colorado. And until the 1960s, when the Silver Bridge was built about a half-mile downriver, this was the only bridge across the river for hundreds of miles. It took 122 tons worth of materials to build Black Bridge, and all of it was carried down by man or mule, including the 1-ton, 550-foot suspension cables that were each carried down in a single-file line of more than 40 Havasupai tribesmen. Imagine that sight. In a testament to its quality, except for paint and minor repairs, the bridge remains exactly as it was almost 100 years ago. Okay, next up is the walk to Phantom Ranch, about 3/4 of a mile from where you stand. And there's lots to see on the way. You'll notice the Indian ruins and interpretive signs just ahead on your left. After that, you'll see a turnoff to Boat Beach, where river trips often pull off for lunch and usually about the best spot to dip your toes in the Colorado if you so desire. But do be careful, the river is moving much faster than it appears, and it is cold year-round with a water temperature of around 50 degrees. That's because the river is fed from the depths of Lake Powell through the Glen Canyon Dam. About 1/4 of a mile down the trail, you'll come to an information kiosk. This is also the junction with the North Kaibab Trail. You'll go right there and follow the signs to Phantom Ranch. If you go left, you'll see bathrooms with flushable toilets just across the bridge over Bright Angel Creek on the left, as well as a spigot to refill water. If you were to keep going along that way, you'd run into the Silver Bridge as you connect with the River Trail and eventually Bright Angel Trail. But again, you're going right at the kiosk, past Bright Angel Campground, which will be on your left, and you'll eventually run into the Phantom Ranch Canteen in about 1/2 mile. We'll talk to you there. Enjoy this part of the journey. The iconic Phantom Ranch. You're now 7.4 miles from the South Kaibab Trailhead and 13.6 from the North Rim, just over a half marathon's distance away, but with the bonus of 5,780 vertical feet of elevation to gain right along with it. Phantom Ranch officially opened in November of 1922. The site had long been used, first by Native Americans, and as early as 1869 by white men, starting with John Wesley Powell's legendary exploration of the canyon by river. President Teddy Roosevelt was perhaps the Grand Canyon's most enthusiastic advocate. He declared the canyon a national monument in 1908 and camped here during a hunting expedition in 1913, leading to the site where you're standing becoming known as Roosevelt Camp. When the ranch was being built, Fred Harvey Company officials intended to name it Roosevelt Chalet, but Phantom's architect, Mary Coulter, insisted on the name Phantom Ranch, after the nearby Phantom Creek and Phantom Canyon. The ranch has a capacity of about 90 guests per night, and as you probably know, is one of the toughest hotel reservations in the world. There used to be a swimming pool here, fed by the waters of Bright Angel Creek, but that was filled in the early 1970s. Imagine what a sight that was. Here at the canteen, You might want to see what all the fuss is about with a cup of the legendary Phantom Ranch lemonade. Or you can even ask how you can mail a postcard from here that will be delivered to the Rim by mule train. Immediately after Phantom, you'll enter one of the most talked about parts of a Rim2Rim hike, the box, a 4.5-mile stretch where the canyon walls close right in on you, and you get to enjoy the sounds of Bright Angel Creek running right alongside you for the entirety of it. After that, it'll be just over a mile to the junction with Ribbon Falls, where you should see a sign. We'll pick it up from there. In the meantime, if it's hot, don't be shy about getting yourself wet, and make sure to top off your water. This next 8.5-mile stretch all the way to the Manzanita rest area is traditionally the hottest and most sun-exposed of the entire hike, and it can be very, very dangerous during the summer. We'll see you at the Ribbon Falls sign. You've made it through the box and are now making your way through what some call the frying pan, a long, sun-exposed stretch that can be downright dangerous in the hottest times of the year. You're just over 5.5 miles from Phantom Ranch, and about 1.5 miles from Cottonwood Campground, which is right at the halfway point between Phantom and the North Rim. Where you stand right now is the first of 2 ways to Ribbon Falls, the highlight of many a hiker's Rim2Rim experience. You might be able to see Ribbon off in the distance, tucked into a side canyon. It's not far, just about 0.5 mile. Unfortunately, the bridge washed out years ago and has not been replaced, so getting to Ribbon will require getting your feet wet, crossing Bright Angel Creek, and then navigating the social trails to pick your way to the falls. So route finding skills will certainly come in handy here. After your visit, you can pick up North Kaibab north of where you are now, thus bypassing the hill in front of you, which the regulars have dubbed Asinine Hill. If you're skipping Ribbon, well, you're about to experience Asinine Hill for yourself, a short uphill and then a downhill. The name probably comes from those descending North Kaibab and suddenly being faced with a climb right in the middle of their descent. Regardless, we'll talk next at Cottonwood, where there will be toilets and water if the spigot is turned on. We'll see you there. Welcome to Cottonwood Campground. You're now just over halfway between Phantom Ranch and the North Rim, with 6.8 miles and 4,161 vertical feet still to go. There are toilets here, as well as potable water depending on time of year and barring any disruptions. There's also an emergency phone. This is a good place to top off water, but in my opinion, the nicest rest area on any of the corridor trails is just about 1.5 miles away, the Manzanita rest area. To me, that is the perfect place to take a break, fill up your water, and use the restroom. There are toilets there as well. Because while you've been gradually ascending about 1,600 vertical feet over the 7.2 miles from Phantom to right here, Manzanita is the spot where the incline truly begins, and it does not stop until you're standing on the North Rim. On the way to Manzanita, pay special attention to your left. The waterfalls and gentle rapids of Bright Angel Creek are especially vibrant here, ending with the often photographed Split Rock Falls. You'll probably know it when you see it. That's when you know you're almost to Manzanita. And when you cross a bridge, you'll know that you have made it. So let's talk again at Manzanita. This is the Manzanita rest area. In my opinion, the nicest rest area on any of the corridor trails. You've got pit toilets, a water spigot, picnic tables, and even access to Bright Angel Creek. This is also a perfectly positioned rest area because, as you've probably already seen, it is straight uphill the moment you step back onto the trail. At this point, you're just over 15.5 miles into your hike, and in the 8.6 miles from the river, you've gained more than 2,000 vertical feet in elevation. But now is when it gets serious. You've got just under 5.5 miles to go, but you'll gain more than 3,600 vertical feet over those miles. This here is also your last chance for water for almost 4 hard miles until Supai Tunnel. So be sure to top off. And there's also never a guarantee the water will be on at Supai either, so there is a chance that this will be your final opportunity for water. All right, you got this. Take as much time as you need here. If it's warm and you can wait for late afternoon from North Kaibab to shade in, well, that's even better, because hiking in the shade, there's nothing like it. We'll talk again in less than a mile when you see the sign for Roaring Springs. That's the big waterfall you'll soon be seeing and hearing off to your right. You've now made it to Roaring Springs, the place that makes human life possible on the corridor trails at Phantom Ranch and on both the north and south rims. The waterfall you see is sourced from an underground spring deep inside the cliff you're looking at. And from that spring comes all the drinking water for all the places I just mentioned. If you order a glass of water at a restaurant on the north or south rim, this is where it comes from. Brush your teeth, take a shower. It's all water that originated at Roaring Springs. How cool is that? From here, some of the water is pumped through a 5-mile pipeline to the north rim. For the south rim, it's more complex. The water is fed by gravity all the way down to Phantom Ranch. Then it flows underneath the Silver Bridge and makes its way all the way up the 1,300 vertical feet to Havasupai Gardens, again, all by gravity. Don't ask me how that works. It's only at Havasupai Gardens that the water meets its first pump house and is pumped the last 3,000 vertical feet to the south rim. The 12.5-mile Trans-Canyon pipeline is truly an engineering marvel, and it all starts right here at Roaring Springs. Okay, just ahead is probably the most iconic section of North Kaibab, the Eye of the Needle, a long stretch before Redwall Bridge that is cut right into the canyon wall with huge drop-offs just off the trail. Nothing to worry about though. The trail is plenty wide, as you've now seen. If heights are an issue for you, just stay close to the canyon wall. You're never in danger on the corridor trails as long as you stay on them. We'll talk again at Redwall Bridge, just under 2 miles and 800 vertical feet from where you stand. Well, you've just completed the short downhill. Yes, the downhill. Kind of annoying, huh? And have now made it to the iconic Redwall Bridge, one of the most photographed sites on North Kaibab. Remember the red and white switchbacks on South Kaibab? Well, you're now essentially at that level, the base of the North Rim's Redwall Formation. Looking up, you can see how steep the trail gets from here. High up, just out of sight, is our next stop, Supai Tunnel, which is just 1.3 miles and about 700 vertical feet away. At this point, you've covered 11 miles from the kiosk at the junction of North and South Kaibab and gained more than 3,500 vertical feet. You've got right at 3 miles and 2,200 vertical feet still to go. I'm sure you're tired. Rim2Rim is no joke, and the rest of the climb is tough. But one foot in front of the other, and soon enough, you will be there and be able to celebrate a truly remarkable and hard-earned physical accomplishment. So let's get at it. We'll see you at Supai Tunnel. You know when other hikers tell you you're almost there, but you're really not? Well, you're almost there. Really. Less than 2 miles to go now, 1.7 to be exact, with just over 1,400 vertical feet remaining. From here, you can look back and see what you've already done. You can see Redwall Bridge way on down there, and Roaring Springs Canyon beyond that. You're just about at the 20-mile point now, and you should be so proud of what you've done, because you know what they say, if it were easy, everyone would do it, and that's especially true for Rim2Rim. There are toilets here, and this is the turnaround point for the daily tourist mule trains. If you see the mules, just step off to the side and follow the directions of the guides. Mules always have the right of way. So now it is time to finish strong. You've got this. You're almost there. In fact, we've got just one more stop before I send you on your way. That's at Coconino Overlook, which you'll see a sign for on the right side of the trail in just about a mile. Let's go do this. Okay, this one will be quick because you are so close and you're probably tired of listening to me. This is the Coconino Overlook. When you're descending the North Rim, this is your first expansive view of the canyon. But when you're ascending, it's the point you know you've just about made it. Only 0.7 of a mile and 460 feet of elevation to go. You have got it from here. This is where our journey ends. When you get to the North Kaibab Trailhead, it is time to celebrate. Your Rim2Rim will be complete after 21 miles of hiking with almost 11,000 feet of elevation change. Be very, very proud. If you're staying at Grand Canyon Lodge and aren't catching a ride, you'll take the bridle path to your left and have about a 2-mile walk. Otherwise, this will be the spot to catch the Trans-Canyon Shuttle or your preferred method of transportation. Thank you so much for letting us be a small part of your journey. And we would love it if you'd share your experience with our Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show Facebook group. There are plenty of folks out there who are hungry for inspiration and for what you have just learned on your Rim2Rim. Until then, I'm Brian Special. Thanks again. You are almost there. So let me be the first to say, congratulations. Bye for now.